Greetings, casual citizens. We're back again. We're talking about San Diego Comic-Con Star Trek news.
Howdy!
And that's Jason. I'm Paul. Oh, I forgot. I'm Paul. I'm joined as always by Jason.
Yes.
My illustrious co-host. And as I said, we're here talking about San Diego Comic-Con news. We already talked about the Star Trek Picard trailer breakdown. Really long, lengthy discussion.
And I'm sorry if you're disappointed from the last video because we were going to talk about this and that, but then we just had so much to talk about.
It went so long.
Yeah, so we thought, well, shit, we'll just make it 2 videos. It's fine.
3 videos.
3 videos.
Sorry. Because this video, we're going to be talking about Discovery Season 3 and the short treks.
Yeah.
So anyway, click up here in the top right if you want to see our Star Trek Picard video.
Mm-hmm.
It's lengthy. It's a good discussion. And then upcoming, we will also have our discussion on the lower decks. Because I actually have a lot to say about lower decks. I'm pretty excited about it. A lot happened. We got a lot of news at San Diego Comic-Con, which is weird. Because as I said in the last video, Star Trek Las Vegas is coming up this week. And that's normally where you expect to get a lot of information. But what you'll find in this video is going to be pretty short because we didn't get a lot about Discovery Season 3 or the short treks. I think we're going to get more about these 2 things at Las Vegas. So we'll be doing another video with whatever we learn from Las Vegas. So watch out for that. Subscribe, hit the notification bell, and you'll know exactly when that goes live. And yeah, let's just get right into it.
Mm-hmm. Short treks.
So the short treks, we're getting 6 of them. I think 3 of them, if I'm not mistaken, are going to take place on the Enterprise as we see it in Discovery.
Yep.
So Rebecca Romaine, if I could speak, is coming back as number 1.
Woo! Big fan.
Gregory Peck is coming back as Spock.
Less of a fan.
I like him. And then Anson Mount is coming back as Pike.
I think that the beard hid from me that it wasn't Leonard Nimoy.
Okay.
I do. I think it adequately hid it from me. But now that he just like looks like he's supposed to be Spock,
Yep.
it doesn't feel like it. But
Okay.
I'm open. I'm open to him convincing me.
Okay.
But man, there's that little bit of time we spent with him at the end of season 2 Discovery.
Yep.
Without the beard.
Yep.
As Spock.
Yep.
Ooh, I don't know, man. I didn't feel it.
I don't know why you're so hung up on him.
I don't know either. We'll find out.
I mean, here's the only thing I would say. Zachary Quinto was such a good Spock that anybody else, like, because I remember when Zachary Quinto was cast. Cast your mind back to 2008.
I always knew it would be good. I never doubted.
Oh, okay. So I remember people thinking like, oh, but like, is he really going to be able to replace Leonard Nimoy? And of course, remember at that time, so you had probably watched Heroes.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
I didn't watch Heroes.
So I knew.
Nobody I knew watched Heroes. No. So none of us knew anything about Zachary Quinto. Right. We were thinking the same thing. Like, who can replace Leonard Nimoy? Nobody can replace Leonard Nimoy. And then Star Trek came out. And for all of the faults of the JJ verse, which I don't have as many as most people do, except for
I know Spock wasn't it though. Spock was not.
Spock was not it. Well, the entire cast.
Yeah,
I thought the entire cast
was
perfect, except for Carl Urban as
Bones.
Bones.
Oh, I loved it.
It was great, but he just wasn't in it enough.
Oh yeah,
that was the
more of that. More of that.
We needed more of it. But other than that, it was all great. And yeah, so I don't know where I was going with that. Take me away. Okay, so we're getting Gregory Peck as Spock, and he's back. He's not as good as Zachary Quinto, but I still like him. I think it's gonna be fun. I think it's gonna be interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And he seems to really like the character, and I think that's gonna help.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm hoping that what we get, because at least 2 of these short treks are following him, or at least involve him in some major way. I hope we get to explore a little bit of it, because so much of Discovery Season 2 with him was just how he related to Burnham, right?
Mm-hmm.
And also, he was kind of dealing with the stress. He wasn't acting himself.
But now we don't have to worry about it because he's sworn to secrecy.
Well, okay, but this first episode actually is prequel.
Quite.
So this is this first one. Well, I don't know what order this is coming in. I think this is the Q&A episode, if I'm not mistaken. But this one follows where he first comes on board Enterprise as an ensign and meets number 1, and they get trapped in an elevator together. Man, these pictures were out of order. Yeah. So they get trapped in this elevator together, and they have, I don't know, they just talk for 15 minutes apparently.
I could get behind that.
It reminds me of that episode of The Next Generation where they get with the kids.
Yeah, they
get trapped in the turbo lift.
The main cast become children.
Yeah, and they get trapped in the turbo lift, and they have to learn how to be grown-ups, right? I think the same thing's going to happen here, and you get kind of a glimpse of that but not how to be a grown-up as much as how to be on a Starfleet ship, right? Because he's half Vulcan, and he grew up on Vulcan, and so he starts off asking all these ridiculous questions, right? Yeah. And then he's like, after she like totally just gives him the cold shoulder, like she is here, just not even looking at him, he's like, do you enjoy eggplant?
I love her. I love her so much.
Rebecca Romijn?
Yes. I love her as number one. Oh,
it's
God.
Great. It's great. And I'm so excited to see more number one.
I know.
I'm so excited to see more of the Enterprise, to see more Pike. I don't care that the Enterprise doesn't look like TOS Enterprise. The TOS Enterprise doesn't look very good. Fight me. I'm going to get so much shit for that. Look, TOS Enterprise is great, okay? But you're kidding yourselves if you don't think it's the worst looking Enterprise. That's all I'm going to say. I said it, Jason.
Said it. Disagree in comments.
They will. They're going to happen. I don't care. You're all wrong. The refit looks better. Okay, hold on. I'm contradicting myself now. TOS Enterprise looks better than Enterprise B. I'm not an Excelsior fan.
Really?
But still.
I love Excelsior.
The Ambassador class looks better. The Galaxy class looks better. Sovereign class looks better. The refit Constitution looks better. So this is closer to refit Constitution. It's great. The Discovery Enterprise is great. I don't care that it looks different. It's amazing. Yes, I have one over there if you're looking for it. And then also I love the uniforms. We're going to see uniforms. So I'm just excited. And I thought Pike was great. I thought number one was great. I thought Spock, like I said, so much revolved around Burnham. It'd be great to see him get away from that and just see Gregory Peck as Spock without all the other storylines going on. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. That it's more just about him. And I will say they keep getting asked about the potential for a series with Pike because we have that break in between the cage and what was the first? The man trap.
Yeah.
You'd think I would know that considering.
Yeah.
We get that I think it was 10-year break or whatever in between where we don't know what was happening.
That we could fill with minutia.
Yes. Well, okay, but you could fill with all the same things any other Star Trek series are filled with.
No, because we know what's going on in the galaxy.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I don't like.
Well, that was one of the problems with Discovery.
We're gonna shove another Klingon war in there?
Yeah. That nobody knew about.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you're sounding like a Cannon Brigade, Jason.
I'm really not on the Cannon Brigade, but
no.
You are asking for it when you go back in time.
Yes.
You're just asking for
it. Yes. Because and especially that time, because it's such a narrow time range.
Do you know how much time you have in Star Trek to cover? All time.
All time, yeah. You have multiple universes if you want to. So, yeah, I agree. I would love to see it just from the standpoint of I love those characters, but I think what I would prefer more is a mini series. Don't give me a full series. It's going to have like 3. Give me 6 episodes, right? Just give me a 6-episode arc of what the Enterprise was doing one time. If they had
would be fine. If they had any balls,
yep.
You know what they'd do? They would have a
or whole, lady balls.
No, they'd have a mini series where Pike got grossed.
Yeah.
Yeah, he got
gross.
He got injured or whatever. Yeah. They go out of their way to make him look unattractive. They go out of their way. I'm not a bad person.
Because when he had a vision, his face was literally melting.
Literally melting. Okay, so anywho, when he got grossed,
yes.
Then if they had any balls, the series would be
or lady balls.
First episode.
Yep.
They should have that happen to him, and most of it should be his character arc should be him revolving around dealing with that.
Well, okay, but there's an episode of TOS about that, which we'll get to.
I know, but
I don't know that you've seen it yet.
I haven't, but the whole episode is him coming to terms with it.
2 episodes.
Coming to terms with it.
2. I'm going to be honest. I haven't fully watched it yet either. I've just read synopses about it.
Pretty sure he just comes back though, right? He just comes back in that episode as
no, he can't even speak. That's the problem.
Right, but he shows up in that episode. Shows up, but he doesn't. He's not.
No. The whole. It's a 2-parter. The first 2-parter ever on television. And Spock is taking him back to Talos. So it's all about him. And then what they did was, because remember, the cage never aired
Yes. I know.
until later.
Yes.
So actually, almost all the scenes from the cage are actually in those 2 episodes.
Right.
So you see everything that we see in the cage.
Right, but it's not as though this thing just happened to Pike and they're immediately going to Talos.
Yeah, no. Okay, so the reason they go to Talos is because he's disfigured, just like what's her name, and so they send him back to Talos so he can live out as.
I hear you, but it's not
like
as though that's the first thing that happens after he gets injured.
Yeah, I don't know how long.
See what I'm saying?
Was.
Like, I mean, I'd like a good, like, long time of him, like, can I still be a captain? Can I do it? All right, like, and just coming to terms.
No, he can't because he can't speak.
I understand,
Or
right?
move.
I know. I could deal with an inward reflection on loss.
Oh, you said inward. I thought you said N-word. I was like, what?
No. Like an inward reflection on loss. Like, well, now I'm disabled and disfigured. We can just do it from his. Like, you just hear his thoughts on it.
And what would be great is because of what Discovery has introduced into the canon, right?
Yeah.
He knew that was going to happen.
Yes.
He signed up for it, and then seeing how he deals with.
Yes. I would love that.
That would be good.
But they're not gonna. So.
But they're not going to.
They're just gonna be bebopping around.
Instead, I think the most likely is we don't get it.
They'll accidentally wake up Khan again.
Yeah. I think. Yeah. Well, that was actually before, right? So, because Kirk is after when they.
No, I know.
Oh, they'll just screw it up again. Yeah.
I'm there. Yeah.
Anyway, no, that would be great. I think the most likely is we get nothing out of it. These short treks is what we're going to get out of it, and that's totally fine for me. Again, I agree. We don't need to be in this time period anymore.
Yeah.
But getting a few short treks, so what, 3 15-minute episodes is like one episode. I can deal with 45 minutes worth of being on the Discovery Enterprise, and with these versions, I can totally deal with that. I'm excited about it. We see this. I keep doing that. I don't know why I keep doing that. We see these things with these 2 little girls. I don't know what episode this is going with. I have no idea. I presume it is the episode titled "Children of Mars." But I mean, we just didn't get anything out of it, so I don't know what else to do about it. Here's Anson Mount back as Pike. Is it just me, or does it look like he's in handcuffs there?
It does a bit.
I just noticed that. I don't know. I don't know what episode that's going to be. So anyway, the 6th episode we have are Ask Not, Children of Mars, The Girl Who Made the Stars, The Trouble with Edward, Ephraim and Dot, and Q&A. I don't know. Maybe this is Ephraim and Dot.
Who knows?
Who knows?
There's a triple episode.
With H. John Benjamin.
Woo!
I'm excited. Archer, Bob's Burgers himself.
Yes.
He's a really funny dude.
Yes.
And I'm excited. We got Tig Notaro in season 2 of Discovery. I thought she was great.
Voice like Christmas pudding, this guy.
Yeah. And presumably, we're going to see Tig Notaro again in season 3 because she was on Discovery when they went into the future. And we're going to talk about Discovery here in a couple minutes. And so it's great getting these comedic, because you remember growing up watching Star, because we grew up with Star Trek TNG, right? There weren't big name stars on Star Trek almost ever, right? There were people sometimes that went on to be big name stars. Yeah. Occasionally, do you remember what's his name? Oh, the guy that played George Costanza. Oh, what's his name?
Oh, Jason Alexander.
Jason Alexander. He was in Voyager.
Right.
Yeah. So you would occasionally,
Rock. The Rock.
The Rock was on Star Trek?
Yeah, and Voyager. Yeah.
Really?
Yes, we've even talked about it on the show before.
Oh, I didn't remember that.
No. 7 of 9 has to fight him.
Didn't leave an impression.
Yeah. 7 of 9 has to fight him.
Okay.
Yeah, and in fact, the only episode of wrestling I've ever watched was because they so WWE came on before Star Trek Voyager on UPN.
Yeah.
And so they advertised it.
Yeah.
And so I go, so The Rock, I've heard of The Rock, so I'll watch. Yeah. So that the only episode I've ever watched of WWE was the episode of WWE that came on before the episode that The Rock was on, because I wanted, I don't know, I guess
that's
how
they get you. That's why they do those crossovers.
It did not work. It did not work.
It didn't stick with it.
No.
Yeah. No, it doesn't always. I mean, that's how they get you. I mean, that's how I got under Euphoria. I was like, it comes on right after this thing. I'm going to watch it. So, I mean, pretty much that's how I do all my HBO shows. I'm just like, I sit down in front of the TV on Sunday nights and I watch HBO, and whatever you're showing me is probably pretty good.
Yeah.
So, anyway, H. John Benjamin's there. A slightly different uniform. I know how you feel about talking about the uniforms, but I have to point it out. These are the Discovery Enterprise style uniforms, and they kind of tried to bridge the gap between Discovery uniforms, which I think we both agree we don't really like, and what we see in TOS. And so they have the colors, just like we're used to in TOS. But from Discovery, they have the shoulder strap thing, and they have the weird offset collar and the offset zipper that I hate.
Which I like.
I hate. It's so asymmetric. It
reminds
bothers me so much.
It reminds me of the best uniform from the Kirk movies.
Okay, look at this. It's why is the zipper over on the right side of it? It starts right in the middle and ends over on the right side.
It's fine.
I don't like asymmetry. It bothers me. It bothers me in design. In life, asymmetry happens. Fine, but in design, you know better. Don't make it asymmetrical. Okay. Anyway, but we would see here with H. John Benjamin, and we get a little bit of a shot of it here. It's trying to go like even one step further. So they've gotten rid of the offset collar and all that stuff, and it's all integrated just like we're used to more with TOS. Although TOS had like the undershirt sometime too, depending on if it was like the cage style or the later style. It still has the shoulder straps, but they're like lighter. They don't stick out as more. But the thing I find interesting about this is like, it's so interesting to me because
it looks like he has a left shoulder pad, but not a right. Is that what you don't like?
No, that's just the lighting. I think he probably has a right one too. It's just the resolution's not very good.
Sure,
and the lighting's bad. No, I think what's so weird to me is we have that period from Wrath of Khan, right, to all the way up to the Enterprise C, right, where they're wearing the best Star Trek uniforms, the red ones. And I was gonna say, actually, now that I think about
undeniably the best.
I was gonna say what's interesting about it is they kept those uniforms apparently for like 60 years, but then every other time period we see they go through new uniforms like every 6 months, right? So like this is gonna be like the third type of uniform we see in the Discovery time frame, and then what they had in the cage right before this was different, and then what we have in TOS is different just after this. So like they just kept changing uniforms. And then I was going to say, then you go to the motion picture, and they had the totally different uniforms. And then they go to what we get in the Wrath of Khan, and those apparently lasted for 60 years, 80 years even, right? And then we get TNG. Those first TNG uniforms only lasted a few years. Then they went to the second TNG uniforms. Then they went to the DS9 Voyager style uniforms, and they went to the first Contact style uniforms. So it's only those red uniforms they stuck with for decades. But then I was going to say, it makes a lot of sense because they're clearly the best. So
yeah, easily.
Anyway, that's really the only big thing here. It's a Tribbles episode. This woman gets attacked by Tribbles. And then this little girl, adorable, but I didn't need this scene. She screams at me and then she eats a live Tribble.
Oh my God.
It was a lot.
Ooh.
It was a lot. You could have done something more with this. I mean, look at her. She's so sweet.
I know. I'd rather watch a Trump rally than watch that again. Oof. Oh my God.
I don't know. I could watch that again. Have you watched a Trump rally recently? Ooh. It's chilling. All right, so that does it for the short treks. Now we're going on to Star Trek Discovery Season 3. Now, we didn't get a lot about this. We really only have these two pictures, and they're both very similar. So we have, but we'll stick with this one first. Burnham and this new character, who is played by David Ajala. He's from Supergirl. He's playing a character named Cleveland Booker. And they call him Book.
Like in Firefly.
What?
The black guy who knows stuff in Firefly is also named Book.
Oh. Well, that's disconcerting. I didn't know that. I've never watched Firefly. Yeah. Roast me in the comments. Fight me, apparently. Anyway, I just haven't gotten time for it. There's so many shows in my queue.
Yeah.
I just don't have the time anymore.
I hear you.
Yeah, so anyway, so what we know, the only things we really do know are that obviously Discovery went 1,000 years into the future. And basically that split up. So Burnham was wearing the suit, right? And she was dragging Discovery along with her. Apparently they don't end up at the same place on the other side. They end up at the same time, but they don't end up at the same place.
I bet here's what's funny. I bet they fucking do, because if you go back, if you travel through time,
yeah,
and you end up in the same place you started,
yeah,
everything else moved.
Yeah.
All of space moved.
Sure.
So the space keeps expanding.
Sure.
So if you go back in time or go forward in time,
Sure.
everything's spread out now. So yeah, so you're not in the same place because all the places moved.
No. But what I'm saying is Burnham and Discovery ended up in two different places.
Oh,
Yeah.
they didn't okay. There are two unique locations that people showed up at.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Really? How do we know that?
They said it during the panel.
Oh, that's stupid.
Yeah, it's weird. I don't understand how that happened.
Come on, guys. Get off on the right foot.
I'm guessing,
Oh.
but like, because like that's not how wormholes work, right?
I guess. I mean, it can work however they want them to. This is a stupid way to have them work.
Also, I find it interesting that they're calling it a wormhole because from my understanding, this is the only other stable wormhole that we know of in Star Trek universe other than the Gamma Quadrant wormhole, which was artificially created.
Right.
We don't know. Well, okay, I take that back. Obviously, in the motion picture.
And for the
they went
record,
through a
for
wormhole.
the record, on DS9's wormhole, I'm just gonna play. I'll play a little bit of devil's advocate here. We don't know that the wormhole that combines the gamma and the delta, gamma and the alpha quadrant.
Right.
We don't know that those are like. So what's happening in the gamma quadrant with the founders, and what's happening in the alpha quadrant? We don't know those are happening simultaneously. For all we know, the invasion from the gamma quadrant could be coming from the future, right, and showing up in our time, but we're so separated that they don't have any conflicts.
Reference. They don't have any.
Yeah, there's no.
reference.
There's no conflict, so they should. For all we know,
that's not really true. Yes,
we
so
never
far,
travel to the gamma quadrant. We only go there through the wormhole, so we could be going to a different
that's
time.
the only way you can get there.
Yeah, but we could be arriving at a different time in the gamma quadrant.
No, but
for all we know,
no, I disagree. No, because even today we can see into what would be the gamma quadrant. We can see beyond our galaxy.
No,
right. So you would have a temporal frame of reference in both places,
but not through the wormhole. We're not looking at it. We're not looking through that part of the galaxy through a wormhole.
No. But Federation ships have been on the other side of the wormhole.
Yeah,
in the gamma quadrant,
but not.
So they would be able to orient
but not where the
themselves.
founders are. Not all the way to where the founders are.
Yeah, Odo went there. But either way, once you get to the other side of the wormhole, you would have a temporal frame of reference.
Odo was picked up in the gamma quadrant.
Odo
right?
was in the continuum in multiple episodes.
In the continuum.
Yeah,
Continuum.
or the link.
Yeah,
Yeah, he was on the planet.
but that's in the gamma
Founder's
quadrant.
planet. Exactly.
And they get there through
the wormhole.
the wormhole.
Yes.
That could be going on at a different time.
No, because once you get into the gamma quadrant, you would be able to, with your sensors, find your temporal frame of reference.
Right. I'm not saying they don't know.
So they would know.
Maybe they know. Maybe they don't care.
Okay, well then they never said it. I don't believe
Sure. I don't know. I'm just saying.
I don't believe that.
But I don't know anything. I don't know about how wormholes affect time. So who knows? Who cares?
that. Yeah. But anyway, it would be weird for a wormhole to split and take two people. Into
That's
different
dumb.
places. But to be fair, there's also she's wearing the suit, so it could be that the suit pulls her afterwards to a different place. Anyway, so it's 1,000 years in the future. We don't know where Discovery is, at least at the beginning. So she ends up on this place. It's not Terra Elysium. And then, let's see. So Kurtzman said that there will be eye candy, like floating cities, that you might expect 1,000 years in the future. Right? So, because everybody's thinking 1,000 years in the future. That's as far forward as we've ever gone in Star Trek. What does the technology look like at that point? Right? And he says, oh, there'll be eye candy. There'll be much more advanced technology than you're used to. Star Trek, there'll be floating cities and all this crazy stuff. He was just saying that as like, I don't know that we're actually going to see a literal floating city.
Let's see him beat Georgetown. Yorktown.
Yorktown.
That was so fucking awesome.
Yeah. So he says there will be stuff like that, but it won't be the focus. He also said that it's a complicated world in the future, but I don't know. He didn't really give us much more beyond that. So I'm hoping we'll learn more in Las Vegas. But what are you thinking right now about Discovery? About what it's going to be in season 3?
I'm already kind of irritated that they did this, or they split them up. I don't
think that'll happen. I don't think that'll last more than a couple episodes.
Okay, because so the first thing we're going to have to do is now we're going to have to like simultaneously figure out different parts of what's going on, and like it's going to be about getting her back to the Enterprise. I'd like them to start off just together.
Discovery.
Yeah, sorry. It's Discovery. I'd like them to just kind of start out and just look together and.
I mean, this is a very Discovery thing to do. We didn't even see Discovery until episode 3 of the show, right? The first 2 episodes were like a totally different thing. I expect that this will be a 2-parter opening, or premiere.
So here's
and then by the end of the premiere, by the end of episode 2,
here's what has to happen. Has to happen. Will happen. Is that she needs Burnham will need to learn something. In the location that she gets warped to, she's going to learn something that the crew of the Discovery could not have learned, right? And that when she comes back, she'll bring that knowledge and it will propel the plot forward.
Yes.
I don't need that fucking shit. Okay, so she magically gets warped to she's going to magically get sent to the place where she learns what she needs to alert Discovery to the major threat or conflict of the season. Yeah, I that feels super fucking lazy to me.
Actually, what I think, because I think this ties into the short trek that we got. What was the name of it? Calypso.
Yeah.
Where Discovery had been sitting there, right? And in that future, there was some war going on, right? And that guy was clearly human.
Yeah.
And had in his escape pod had human things, right? He was watching Betty Boop. So if it's a complicated future, my thought process is there is a war or maybe even a civil war in the Federation. And what happens is they go to 2 different places and they end up in 2 different sides. So she sees one side and Discovery sees the other side. And then they reunite and this war is stupid, like all of them are. How do we fix this?
Sure.
See what I'm saying?
You know what a really great...
And so it's not like a singular threat as much as it is resolving the 2 sides of this conflict.
Can I give you a proposal for a dope as fuck conflict in the Federation 1,000 years from now, Paul?
Okay, shoot.
So it's 1,000 years. The Federation's been doing fucking great.
Yep.
Rolling on the galaxy, man.
Yep.
And Klingons are part of the Federation. Romulans are part of the Federation. Everything's fucking hunky-dory. Cardassia is part of it.
Yep.
And what happens is that in their splendor, right, a disagreement happens politically or ethically, or there's a paradigm conflict where some people say, you know what, those Borg, they really had the right idea. We really should just link up and make it all about making ourselves smarter and striving towards perfection. Because remember the
so-called radical left.
The primary conceit of Star Trek, the ethos is that you don't work for money, you work to better yourself.
Yes.
But once you've conquered the galaxy,
what else is there?
To do? Right? Yeah. We're like, when you don't really have any real threats, right? Yeah. So maybe some people say, well, we should be striving towards a state of perfection, like the Borg, and the other was like, no, we should really just keep doing this where everybody isn't, stabbed and then not an individual. Well, that would be so cool, right?
I'm interested to see if it plays on. Yes, it's interesting to tie it into the Borg specifically. I don't think it will involve the Borg, but I think you're just using it as a metaphor, right?
No, I think that would be fucking cool. I don't think they're going to do it. I just think it would be really cool. I agree with you. Actually, you're right. I misspoke about what I said. Yes. I don't actually mean the Borg. I just mean like they actually think, well, maybe we should do something like that. Maybe we should meld our minds together.
Right.
The thing.
I think that will start to cause discord because there's always been this undercurrent, even within Trek itself, of at what level does this harmony come at the expense of diversity, right? And at what point do you go from a common cause to forced hegemony?
Yes.
Right? And that was, if you go back to Star Trek 6, right? The Federation had become the Homo sapiens only club, right? That was the phrase from Gorkon's daughter.
Yeah.
Right? And if you take what you say to its logical conclusion, okay, let's say everybody gets on board. They're all part of the Federation now. Now there's no more enemies in the galaxy.
Or no credible threats. Yeah.
Yeah, no credible threat, because obviously we know the Borg are pretty much DOA, at least at the end of the 24th century, right? Then it does start to become an internal conflict of like, okay, at what point does the Federation, do some of them start saying, yes, we have to reach an even further perfection, right? And that perfection is actual total hegemony, right? And not necessarily racial, but in thought.
Sure.
You know?
Now, if something interesting, do you want to? All the Star Trek species are I would call them. I'm sorry, Jim Sterling. They're iconic. I would say. He doesn't like it when you misuse the word. I'm
Oh yeah,
but they're iconic because and they're iconic in the same way that Batman villains are iconic, the exact same way. Because, and I've been thinking about this, because Batman villains that you remember, the Joker, the Riddler, Two-Face, Penguin, they all are aspects of Batman run amok.
Yes.
So, for example, if you take
that is the actual point of Star Trek,
right? So, if you take, for example, the Riddler, right? So, Batman's a detective. So he tries to figure things out. So the Riddler is
creating all these crazy traps.
Yeah. So Riddler is
Puzzles.
always concerned about how being the smartest, right?
Yes.
So that, and like that's his intellect, right?
Yes.
Run amok, right?
Yes.
So Riddler is plagued by this. Edward Nygma is plagued by his towering intellect, right?
Yes.
And Two-Face is plagued by having two personalities, just like Batman and Bruce Wayne.
Yes.
And then Penguin is greed, money, right? And Bruce Wayne is rich, right?
Really nice.
And so that and the Borg are just like that, right? They're
all Star Trek species.
I know, but as I'm saying, but that's what makes them so great.
Yes, the Klingons were the aggressive part, the Vulcans were the logical part, the Romulans were the vindictive part, the Ferengi are the greedy. Yes.
Yeah, and I love that. So,
and the Borg were the.
I just felt this conversation needed us to point this out.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
For people who.
And at some point that will come to a conflict. Yes, because if you eliminate all those other aspects, right? Like if you tame, let's say, for lack of a better word, okay, let's not say that. If you bring in the Romulans, if you bring in the Klingons, if you bring in the Vulcans, and if you bring in the Cardassians and the Ferengi and the Borg are gone, and then. If you bring all that in, then you lose all those different aspects of it if they're all just part of one part. And then, yes, you could see one part of it being like, okay, we're going to take this to its logical conclusion, which is we all have to be just one cohesive unit moving in sync like the Borg, right? And then that's where the part of you that goes like, hey, look, liberalism is not about, because I hope they do this because it would be so timely, because all the critique that you get of these people in the modern left, like, oh, it's the left actually that are fascist now because they just they don't have diversity of opinion, right? If you have a different opinion, it's like, well, we're totally good with diversity of opinion. We just don't think racism is a valid one, right? That's just not one we think we should cultivate in our culture.
I see this argument. I sympathize with your side on this, right? I really do. On this we won't get too deep in this, but I hear your point, because it is really fucking irritating when the right goes, well, the real fascists are the left. Blah, blah, blah. I hear you.
Did you know the Nazis were socialists?
But honestly, the fact of the matter is, you could take any liberal policy like that we believe in, right? That they're claiming is fascist, right? So maybe like pronouns for
trans
individuals or gender. Poorly defined. I don't know how you describe them, but like
non-binary.
Non-binary. So it's just unconventional genres of people.
Yes.
The idea, you could take any one of these ideas, like, well, you should call people by this pronoun, or you shouldn't say the N-word, or you should, any of these things where that we consider them to be indisputable claims about ethics, right? You shouldn't take these acts, or you could take any one of them, and you could extrapolate using. You could use those kinds of injunctions to force people to do something bad. You could just say, oh well, it could run amok, right? You could say, well, if you don't pay your taxes, you're racist. And so you could always do that. Anytime a group of people are trying to tell another group of people, hey, you shouldn't do things this way, or you should do things this way.
Right.
Maybe you're right, but you could any politically motivated ideology could be driven to fascism.
Yes.
So when they say it, it's like, fuck you. Of course. Yeah, sure. Yes. The left could become fascist. Good point. But that is not what's happening, honey.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
We are not the party. And I do think that sometimes people are too aggressive, especially people who don't know what they're talking about. Sometimes they will go a little too hard on trying to change people, right? Not seeing from there, not taking into account this person didn't mean that. There could be a softer touch sometimes, but we're not like disparaging a minority group for political power.
Yes.
And that is what the other side is doing.
Well, and we're not
See what I'm
disparaging.
saying? So it is.
And we don't disparage immutable characteristics,
But when-
right? Like someone being a racist, that's not an immutable characteristic. You could choose not to be racist.
Well, the whole argument about whether the left is fascist, the right is fascist. I mean, I hate arguing against it. I hate arguing for your side of this because it's like, okay, I mean, but
any hegemony can be
fascist.
fascist.
I mean, okay, so yeah, you pick some bullshit argument about how the left is doing this, and that seems kind of authoritarian. And I go, well, yeah, I guess it seems a little authoritarian because it's got authority behind it. Blah, blah, blah. And it's like, I don't want to be a part of this. So I just get worn out by it.
I know. And I say, and I don't want to make this, well, actually, I do want to make this political.
Yeah, you
we're already here.
Punctuate it.
Because one of the things that's frustrating is like, okay, so like the news came out today, right? Like Trump tweeted this morning that they're looking into declaring Antifa an actual terrorist organization, right? Mm-hmm. And the thing that's stupid about that, well, there's multiple things that's stupid about that. Number one, just look at body counts. Antifa, 0.
Sure, sure. Okay.
The right, every single extremist-related death in 2018 came from right-wingers.
Yes.
Right? Domestic right-wing terrorism, right? And so that's just one. Okay. 2, the bigger problem with that is Antifa is by design non-organizational. It has no hierarchy, as you would expect from an anarchist organization, right? And by the way, I'm not advocating for Antifa here because I'm not an anarchist. That's not a left thing. That's another thing. People think Antifa is left. It's like, well, no, they're anarchists mostly. That's not what Democrats and liberals are. Like, they don't believe in any government at all.
It just irritates me. This whole discussion is so clear what Antifa is. It's civil unrest.
Yes.
That's what it is.
Okay,
the
so
civilian
here's my
population
point.
is restless.
So
and
here's my point.
Out.
So here's my point, though. So they're talking about making Antifa a terrorist organization, and I don't approve of Antifa's methods and a lot of things they do. But at the same time, their body count is 0. But more importantly, Antifa is by design. It has no hierarchy. There's no organized leadership, and the members are anonymous.
Which isn't necessarily a good thing, though.
It's not a good thing if you're trying to make a movement, which is why I don't subscribe to Antifa.
Sure.
I would much prefer to be part of a movement like Black Lives Matter, which is a little amorphous, but any given chapter does have a leadership. And even though there's not an overall for all Black Lives Matter, like if you go Black Lives Matter Baltimore
and
has an organization,
yes.
right? And Antifa doesn't even have that. But here's where that becomes really problematic and now if you say Antifa is a terrorist group, it's an organization that has no known leadership or organizational structure, and whose members are by design anonymous. How do you then identify the terrorists? And what it is it becomes a very easy way, because he even said in his tweet, this will make it easier for law enforcement to do the job. Not fascist at all.
Yeah, because you can just label anybody Antifa.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Any protester, you can just say, well, they're Antifa. And you can just prosecute them as a terrorist. Right? And so I don't know how you look at that and go like, yeah, no, it's Antifa. They're the fascists. And it's like, what? Okay, I get it. You don't think we should be throwing milkshakes on people. I got you.
Yeah,
I'm not losing sleep over somebody getting milkshakes thrown on them. Right?
Yeah. Well, I suppose I lose sleep, not lose sleep, but I take the milkshake point as far as, well, that person got through enough to throw something at him. How hard is it to purchase a grenade? I mean, you see what I'm saying? Like, so that could have been anything else.
Sure.
I take that point. I take that point.
Yeah, I take that point. I also say, guess what? None of them have ever thrown a grenade.
Yeah, good. Yeah, fair enough.
Right?
Yeah.
Is because here's the thing. You could easily, it's the slippery slope thing. It's the thing that they do with gun control all the time, right? Like, oh, well, if you put in this gun control, then like only criminals get guns because criminals don't pay attention to the law. Okay, you could say that about fucking anything.
Sure.
Only criminals break the law, so let's just not have any laws at all.
Yes, I hear you.
Right? It's the same thing. It's like, yes, there is a line that you could cross from throwing milkshakes, throwing somewhere else. Guess what? That's the line where I say, I'm not okay with this. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We're just not past that line right now. The one journalist got punched. That was a line. Whoever did that should have been charged with assault. Right? If anybody in Antifa goes out and physically assaults someone, even throwing milkshakes, technically that's misdemeanor assault. Yes, prosecute them. Fine. I'm not going to lose sleep over milkshakes. Nobody really got hurt. The Andy, whatever his name is, that got hit. Okay, he actually got hurt, not nearly as badly as he tried to pretend he did, but he actually got hurt. That's bad. Charge him with assault. It's fine. But like, there are lines. Understand that there are lines. Everything has a line. And what I will, so to bring it back to Discovery, I think it would be prudent at this point. And Kurtzman seems to say over and over again that he wants to bring this vision of the idealism of Star Trek and make it useful to people, and that it's more important now than ever. I think it would be interesting to see them play that and to try to make that point through metaphors in Discovery. You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
And a way to do that would be like, okay, let's play the I'll grant you game. I'll grant you that the left, in this case Federation, right? Because, by the way, if you don't think the left, or if you don't think the Federation is left, then like I don't know what show you're watching, right?
Sure.
So anyway, I think you and I agree on that at least.
It's hard to argue.
It's hard to argue.
Money.
Right. And so if they did season 3 of like, okay, we'll play I grant you, the left goes crazy and he goes fascist, right? There will be the actual left, right?
Oh, sure.
Which will be, hey, this isn't what we wanted. This is not cool. We got to fight back, right? And then that would be the struggle of like, look, just because it can go to this dark place,
Yeah, I know. And
doesn't mean that we shouldn't still.
I just don't. Name me a fascist political ideology or movement that started out that's one of their primary like platform things was more immigrants. Tell me about it. Tell me about that. Tell me about that fascist party, right? That like we really just want more immigrants, and they say, well, Larry says, well, you just want more. You just want their votes. It's like, yeah, but they'd be American.
They'd be Americans. So they're entitled to a vote.
So yeah, there'd be more votes.
Yeah.
For the side that let them in. So maybe you guys should let more. Maybe we should race. I think the right. Wouldn't it be what a world?
Well,
if the right and left, and the right was like, we're gonna let everybody from Sweden immigrate here.
Yeah.
And then we're like, well, we'll let everybody who's different, who's
bad
not
news
white.
For them, like 95% of Swedes are atheists and they're
I
big
know.
on public health care.
I know, but like, what if they do? We'll just let a whole bunch of white people immigrate, and we'll see who can let them immigrate faster.
Sure.
I'd be fine. I'd be fine with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bring in a lot more Western Europeans.
Yeah.
We'll finally get Medicare. Because they're pretty clear on on how they feel about that.
Who can help the most fastest? Shouldn't that be what it's about? Jesus.
Well, and like,
sorry,
you know,
I'm sorry. I'm dragging us in another.
No.
direction.
I do want to talk because I just hate. I said it in our Star Trek Picard video. So much of what you see on YouTube about Star Trek is so weirdly conservative in a way that I just don't understand. And it's good to see Kurtzman, for all of his foibles, which we've talked about, have a vision of like, no, that's not what Star Trek was about. That's not what Star Trek is about. And we're going to draw a line in the sand here. And we're not going to kowtow to whatever you had in your brain that you thought Star Trek was about. No, this is what we're doing, right?
Yeah, sure.
And I hope they do that in Discovery Season 3. And I think this is an interesting way to do it. And so
I just hope the plot's not silly. I'll be fine with that.
Yeah.
I don't care if they're all Trump supporters. Let's just give me a decent goddamn plot.
Yes. Because that finale was just,
You know, they could do it, you know.
What?
They could do it.
They could do what?
Discovery could have a minute where they talk about the 19th century or whatever, the 21st century.
Oh, yeah.
And they just mention Trump as like this horrible accident that happened in the past. They could do it. They could do it.
Okay. So, oh my God, I can't remember where it was from. I actually had a note about this, and I don't know if it was Star Trek or not. But there was something that I was reading that it was straight up like Trump-esque. Oh my God. I'm not even going to mention it because I don't remember what it is without having the quote. I can't get into it, but I definitely think, especially if you watch their panels, Kurtzman said multiple times, we need this. We need Trek now more than ever, and we need to get it in front of more people than ever. And that's why they're spreading it into, you know, Discovery, which is really your mainstream TV viewer, Picard, which is trying to bring in old school Star Trek viewers, right? Lower Decks, which is animated, and we're going to talk about in our next video, which is animated and trying to reach that Gen Z demographic, if we're honest, right? And then also there's going to be the show on CW about Starfleet Academy. It's going to be like a young adult kind of thing. And there's going to be another animated series on, I think, Nickelodeon, Star Trek series that's going to be aimed at kids. right? And they're really just trying to get this in front of as many people as possible. And I appreciate that they're taking that vision to where it should be, in my opinion.
Sure, for money.
For money. We still live in a capitalist system.
Sure.
It reminds me that it's just, again, to bring it political, everybody's talking about like, did you know Bernie Sanders has like 2 houses? And I'm like, did you know that one of them was inherited from his wife's parents? Like, okay, you're right. Bernie Sanders has a house and he says he's a socialist. Granted, he lives in this world. It just always kills me. People are like, I saw Bernie Sanders driving a car. Shouldn't he be taking public transportation? I'm like, have you seen public transportation in the United States? You have to live in the world you're in.
Yeah.
Right? There's a meme where it's like this guy, he's carrying
and
something.
Honestly, if we're being honest, if you really want something like that, a leftist politician having to use public utilities is it would be coming from the left. That kind of injunction law where like if you
because it's always in bad faith.
The right has no interest in making Bernie Sanders do that. So why are they complaining?
Because it's all in bad faith. It's all about whataboutism anymore. They're just trying to discredit. They're honestly trying to divide the left. And one of the most frustrating things about modern politics in the United States right now is how the left is divided. And I'm like, but the left as it is right now, for all its imperfections, is what I imagine Starfleet or the Federation would be, which is like, we're all on the same page that more people need to have healthcare and less people need to be poor and less people need to be discriminated against, right? We're all on the same page there, but we just don't always agree on how to get there and what is the balance between personal liberty and collective good. We're always thinking about that, right?
I like to think that it is I wouldn't say that the modern left. I think that there is I hate to sound this way. I don't like Mark Rubin. Don't get me wrong, but
Mark Rubin?
What's his name?
You always call him Mark. It's Dave Rubin.
Dave Rubin. I don't like Dave Rubin, but I'm gonna say it this way. I would say I get a militant-y feel from the left a little bit about how we should use language and how we should talk to people, and I think it's coming from a good place. I think it's coming from a good place. You know, you don't want to offend people. You don't want to ruin someone's fucking day.
I mean,
I hear you, but in the future of Star Trek, I kind of like the idea of, if you look at TOS, some of the stuff they say in there is kind of sexist, kind of bigoted.
Oh yeah.
And I like to imagine that what happens in the future is that the bigotry isn't really a problem anymore. So when people say bigoted things, no one thinks anything of it.
It's just a joke.
It's not, or even just like, oh, he comes from like, he just thinks a weird thing. Doesn't matter because they don't have any power.
Yeah.
And I like that.
I like that too.
I want to live in a world where it's not a big deal to be racist because there's no racism.
Yes.
That would be great.
I know. We've talked about this several times. But here's the problem.
Yeah.
Here's the problem with that.
Mm-hmm.
So if you've noticed, I don't know if you've noticed this, Jason, but all these right-wing talking heads, let's say the thing that they like to call themselves, the intellectual dark web, right? So that's your Dave Rubin. Sam Harris is kind of on the edge of the intellectual dark web, but we're not going to get into that because you and I have a thing about it. But if you think of Dave Rubin, what's his name? Mark Weinberg?
Oh, I know you're talking about. Yeah.
Anyway.
Weinstein.
No, I don't think it's Weinstein.
I think it is.
No,
I know you're talking about. The professor.
Yeah. And then who's the what's his name from the Jordan Peterson, right? Ben Shapiro.
You cannot include Ben Shapiro in this.
What do you mean?
He's just so much worse than Jordan Peterson.
Oh,
even if you completely, just not Ben Shapiro.
Well, you get this. I think so. So Dave Rubin to Jordan Peterson is the spectrum of like what you get on right wing intellectualism, whereas like Dave Rubin is just stupid.
Sure.
I don't want to disparage. Dave Rubin is not as educated as he should be for someone given his status,
or even maybe even
because
honest.
he gets made to look foolish a lot.
Yeah, but is he? But like even like just like intellectual honesty, right?
Right. Like he's not intellectually honest.
Yeah.
Ben Shapiro is like, he knows enough to convince people that he knows what he's talking about while bullshitting out his ass constantly.
Yeah.
Right?
No, he's doing the thing. See,
right.
See, this is not what Sam Harris does.
Right.
Ben Shapiro will start 100 fires when he's arguing with someone, and the other person's busy putting them out.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So he doesn't look like anything's gained.
Yes. And Dave Rubin's going around like, well, what is a fire? How do I strike this match?
Sam Harris is ostracized because he's often either wrong.
Okay, but I'm
or
not talking about Sam Harris.
I know.
So then you go to the other end of the spectrum, which is Jordan Peterson, which is like Jordan Peterson is incredibly knowledgeable, if nothing else. And I think he makes great points about some things. I also think he is part fascist, right?
I see, but do you just think he's
Yes.
wrong? Do you think that he's fascist or he's wrong?
I think every time I watch Jordan Peterson, the problem is he'll go out, he'll answer a question, and he'll start. And for the first 60% of it, I'll go like, this guy's making great points. He's making great references to philosophical,
And historical
writings, things
stuff,
like that, history, all that stuff. And you go, this guy knows his shit. And then it's like that last 20% where he just goes off like, and so here's where I'm going to ignore half of what I just said to say, here's how it should really be. And it's so conservative that you're just like, I'm shaking my head. I'm like, how did you get there? It doesn't even make sense with what you just said.
I suppose, but then you have to ask yourself, but you get close. So we agree that he's a smart guy. We agree that a lot of his points are clever.
Yes.
But we don't agree with where he ends up.
Clever, but they're valid.
We end up we don't agree where he winds up.
Yes.
So that begs the question.
But
hold on.
where he winds up is I should be able to discriminate against you.
Hold on.
So that's the problem.
Hold on. I don't know if that's his agenda. I think he's making some ethereal point that he doesn't see the repercussions of.
Okay, that's possible.
But so that's what I mean by wrong instead of fascist. But let's unshackle ourselves for a minute.
Sure.
I wouldn't think that either of us would be tempted to say the right. There exists no conservative position that we could respect.
Oh no,
right?
Absolutely not. Yeah.
For sure. So you got to. It worries me because you got to think about it like this. We agree that Peterson's smart. We agree that some of his points are interesting.
Sure.
We don't agree where he ends up. But you got to say, well, if there are people who are conservative who aren't fascists, there has to be a way. Like, what would it look like? Well, even if it were so, even if we could find this person, we still wouldn't agree with them probably. Right? So that's kind of how I feel about Jordan Peterson. It's like, well, yeah, he ends up somewhere. I think it's wrong. I think he's incorrect. But he just lands.
But it's not even a matter.
Conservatives have to come from somewhere.
No,
that's what I'm saying, and I prefer them to come from Peterson.
And honestly,
that's where I'm at.
Well, and honestly, that's one of the best points Peterson ever makes. Right? I mean, he's made it several times. He's talked about how, some people are born with a predilection to the left, and in the left, you favor disrupting hierarchies, right? Flattening social structures, things like that. If you're predilected towards the right. You come from a vantage point of wanting to maintain hierarchies because that maintains order.
Yes.
And you worry that without hierarchies, you have chaos.
And
right?
He doesn't think that our hierarchies are intrinsically bigoted. That's what he thinks. That's what he thinks.
That's what he thinks.
And
okay.
Maybe he's wrong about that. Okay.
And I totally get that. And it's one of the best things that he does. And I think about it all the time. And I think he's 100% right about that. And that's one of the problems that throws a wrench into Star Trek of, if you think like that, then conservatives are always going to, it's not like the arrival of Vulcans are going to make people not be predilected to favor hierarchy and order, right? So what happens to conservatives when communism wins, right? That's always been an untested conflict within Star Trek that I think Discovery is going to get to.
See, here's the problem.
Okay, but let me finish.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Let me finish with Jordan Peterson, because it's not just a matter of him making a point and saying that and then going, okay, I disagree with your conclusion about it. Here's an example I'll give you. He'll make a point about gender roles, right? And the effects of evolution, right? On the way that men and women behave. And that is something that the left, I don't want to say ignores, but there is a tendency to, as a default, it's so close to the line of, do we eliminate gender, for example, or do we understand that there are differences and embrace them? And I believe that the left real position is that no, it's understand that there are differences between gender expression, stuff like that, but it's not universal. People can cross boundaries. People can be somewhere in between because it's a spectrum, not a digital thing, right? It's very analog. But also B, we should accept that and embrace that in all of its different variations, right? That's where the left should be. But it's so once you do that, and especially if you're not as educated, I don't even say educated, most people don't sit and think about this stuff like you and I do.
Sure.
They got shit to do, right? They got to pay the bills, they got to go to soccer practice, blah, blah, blah. So to them, it's very easy to just look at that and think like, okay, what you're really saying is there's no such thing as gender anymore. And that's weird to me because I like wearing pants and, wrestling and watching football, and those are all masculine things. And so why don't take that away from me? Don't tell me I have to suddenly cry all the time and stuff like that. And I don't think that's what the left is really saying, but I understand how it's difficult to how it feels like that from an outside perspective. And I do think that is a failure of the modern left. And I think it's more of a failure of social media.
Well,
it's so difficult to get that nuance across. But here's the problem with Jordan Peterson. He'll make a point like that, and you go, I'm 100% with you. And then he'll turn around and go like, so why do you think women wear makeup in the workplace, right? And it's to attract men. So therefore, why should they be surprised when men hit on them? And it's just so dumb because you're like, wait, what fucking point were you making? Like, why do you wear a suit? Like, why don't you just walk around dirty all the time?
Well, to be fair, I don't think he was saying that men don't also do it. He was just using the makeup thing as an example of, he could have been a man. He could have done the suit thing, and he would have been making the same argument. I don't think he was specific. He's never specifically going on about women. He's specifically selecting women in this argument because that's the protected class that he's talking about.
Sure. But his point is that there should be therefore a separation, a segregation, right? Because these things are naturally going to happen. Women want to attract men.
He's never said there should be a segregation. He is saying that people naturally tend to end up in different things. That is what he has always said.
Sure.
Just to be clear about fair to him.
Yes, to be fair to Jordan Peterson.
Yes.
However, but that's not what. That's not. He was using that in defense of like. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, I'd have to go back and watch that Vice interview.
He doesn't like equality of outcome. That's what he does. He says he takes issue with the idea of
but in this particular instance, he was specifically talking about sexual harassment in the workplace, and he was basically trying to discard it as like, well, why should you be surprised?
Oh, sure.
It's like, well, what's wrong with this? And I'm like,
I don't know if he said what's wrong with it. I would say if he said, why would you be surprised? I would believe that. He said there's nothing wrong with sexual harassment in the workplace, or he said you shouldn't be surprised by it. I think there was a part of it that it was like, you asked for it. Sure.
It came off of a vibe of like you asked for it. And it's like, wait, but that's not not the conclusion you should be coming to.
Well,
here.
honestly, if you I'm on your side of this, 100%. I am. But if you think about it from what he so let me just I have some things to talk about from what you were saying.
Okay.
And this has become politics. And
this has totally become politics. I'm sorry. You can stop watching. We're done talking about Discovery.
But we're pretty cool. So you should keep saying and dislike and subscribe.
Yes.
So
and hit that notification.
When you were talking about
when I was talking
about the left and the failure of the left.
Yeah.
Yes. So I try to see the other side as best I can. Because
we've both been on the other side.
There's something I think it might help you see a little bit more where they're at from a less confrontational perspective.
Sure.
So you know how we see that it's obvious that all this border wall stuff and all this anti-immigration stuff is a political ploy. It's a tool. He's politicizing this issue to gain power. That's what's happening. It's very clear. From a lot of people on the right's perspective, they agree that you shouldn't call some, people bad names or words they don't want to be called by.
Yep.
And that, maybe you should show people respect if they're different than you. And there's nothing wrong with that, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
All the gay marriage stuff aside, because that's a whole other bag. But what they see, or what they suspect, is that in the same way we see that him politicizing immigration, whereas you and I really care that immigrants aren't discriminated against and treated like shit, and refugees are taken care of. We believe in that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we can see it being idealized on the opposite side. So I worry that that's what they see. They see that all this push to be more inclusive, this Me Too stuff, it's all just a politicization of those issues. And they go, well, if they're politicizing it, it's really just about power. So all this talk about people needing help is all bullshit. And really, it's really, well, because it's not, I wouldn't say projection. It's just, that's what they see. They see, okay, well, they are politicizing this issue and maybe therefore it's not true. I'm not willing to say that that's projection, because you're saying
no, it's projection because again, when we talk about the right, just keep in mind, even when we talk about the left, we're not talking about the 40% of Americans who are just kind of in the middle. They're somewhat right on some things, somewhat left on some things, and they're just going along. Like I said, they're going to soccer, going to work, not paying a damn bit of difference. Most of them don't even vote, statistically speaking, right? We're talking about people who are on the ideological left and right. And the further you get to either side, the more extreme it gets.
Sure.
Right? Now, on the left, that is almost non-existent in modern American lexicon because it has been successfully beaten back in a Cold War United States.
Yep.
Right? The right, that did not happen. Instead, the right coalesced authoritarianism. It used to be authoritarians were fairly evenly distributed between Democratic and Republican parties. It is no longer the case. If you poll people who identify as Republican or Democrats, authoritarianism is correlated with being a Republican.
Sure.
Right? And is not correlated with being a Democrat. And so you take people who are authoritarian, and these are the most vocal people on the right that are leading the movement, right? Of course, they care about power. That's what authoritarianism cares about. A power above all else. They don't even really care about the policies.
Oh,
that's how you get these people that don't care.
Right.
That's what Trump doesn't care about low taxes and stuff like that.
Paul,
he doesn't care about deregulation.
Yes.
He cares about power. And so they project that on the left, but the left actually does not care about power that way.
No.
And that's why we suck, and that's why we keep losing elections.
Paul. I completely disagree with all of that. And here's why.
Well, you're wrong.
No, don't do that. And here's why. I agree with. Well, I don't disagree with the content of your characterization of right politicians.
Yes,
that's fair, and I would be saying
that's what I was talking about.
Projecting. But when I'm talking about people who just like they see something like Jordan Peterson. I don't think Jordan Peterson, when he talks about, and that's what he's doing. He's concerned about. He sees, okay, well, you're politicizing gender and you're trying to use that to make me do something because you want to demonstrate you have power, and then you have power and you just think, oh, that's where he's coming from.
Right.
Now, I think he's wrong.
Right.
Right. I do think.
All I'm saying is he thinks that that's what we want because that's what he would want. And he doesn't understand that we don't care about that.
Well,
we don't care about it so badly that we keep losing elections because we don't care about it enough.
Maybe. That may be so. Okay, that's fair. And that may be
That's
so.
my point.
That may be so. That may be, sure. We're getting a little bit into what does someone think. I'm a little bit hesitant.
Yes.
I'm
making generalizations.
It seems plausible.
That's why
I'll give you plausible.
I made generalizations, but that's why I said at the beginning, this doesn't include at all the 40% of people who are just in the middle. And it doesn't even include the 10% that are ideological, but are like closer to the center on either side. Because they're not as rigid. And so my point here was,
well, no, I was on my thing. So I'm getting to Jordan Peterson about him saying, why were you surprised? What did you expect?
Sure.
I mean, if you think about it, I'm reminded of Bill Clinton and his jobs program.
Okay.
Right? Where he was saying to the right, I will cut welfare. And he was saying to the left, well, I'll create a bunch of training programs.
Yeah.
And guess which one he didn't do, obviously. Ha. But
as always.
Right. So if you think about it, we knew how people treat women. We know that. So then we say, well, we're going to let them work in the workplace.
Sure.
Yeah. And we don't put things in place to protect them from sexual harassment.
Right.
What did you expect to happen? From that perspective,
sure, yes.
I completely see it.
I see that, but I don't think that's the point that he's making.
I worry that it might be. I really do. I worry. I wonder. I mean, because otherwise we must be saying that what he wants is for women to either not be in the workplace or to desexualize themselves. And I don't think that's what he's after. I don't.
That is the impression that I get. The thing about Peterson, he's smart enough that he would never say it. And he would backtrack it even if he did come close to doing it. Right? One of the things that's most frustrating.
But what that tells me about Peterson, if that's true, is that he knows the difference between right from wrong.
Yeah.
Whereas if you listen to Ben Shapiro, it's not at all clear he understands the difference between right from wrong. Or, you know what I'm saying?
Well, he does he only does after the fact. That is the big difference between Peterson. Because Shapiro will be the one.
Just so our listeners understand
because Shapiro
our position about Ben Shapiro, we think I'm trying to give Jordan Peterson an inch. I have no interest in giving Ben Shapiro an inch because he's clearly not intellectually honest and not serious about the things he's saying. He's like, what's her name? The blonde.
Ann Coulter?
Ann Coulter.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's like her. She doesn't.
Less anti-Semitic.
She doesn't give a shit.
Less anti-Semitic.
Yeah.
But,
Well, sure. But in any event, like they're just fucking trolls.
Yeah.
Milo. They're like Milo. Yeah. I mean.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to put a pin in that because that's how I'm going to wrap this up after discovering that's how we actually started this.
Sure.
But yeah, I think the thing, with Peterson, but that almost concerns me more. Because Peterson very clearly does, and he even says himself that he's a conservative, right? And if he's so intelligent that he understands these differences, and then he decides that he's conservative anyway, if you even could decide a thing like that, which is difficult. It makes me suspicious. You see what I'm saying?
I do, but
because you pointed out that he can tell the difference between right and wrong.
Sure.
With Ben Shapiro, it's easy to go like, the guy is just bad, and he just doesn't understand until somebody points out that when you said that Arabs live in sewers and kill people,
at the very
that
least,
was racist.
Yes, at the very least, he doesn't care.
Right.
Whereas,
right. Whereas Peterson knows, but there's almost a vindictiveness behind that concerns me.
So you say let's play this out then. Let's say that he does know and care right from wrong.
Yeah.
And he says something wrong and he regrets it.
Yeah.
Right. So basically we're saying the smartest conservative we know.
Okay.
Right. Has no ethical way to be a conservative.
Yep.
Right. So we're never going to agree with him. So we find that we don't agree with him on any of these things. We find them appalling. That's why we're not on the right.
Yes.
So I'm very hesitant to say that he isn't sincere or that he's trying to do something sneaky, because I want to believe that, you know, people who just truly disagree with me are really coming from a place where they want everyone to be better off. And I you know what I mean? I try to take that perspective. So but we're never going to agree with them.
Okay,
right?
but
that's the thing. So we don't agree with them.
Yes.
You're with me. Go ahead.
Yeah. I had to retort to that, but it's just we've gone really long, and I don't necessarily know that I would have been able to have formed it as fully as I wanted to. So I'll wrap this back up with Discovery, and then we'll wrap this up.
We disparaged Ben Shapiro. Well, what more do you need?
Well, okay. So the point of bringing all this up and bringing up the intellectual dark web was, if there's a common thread between all of them, and I'll even include Steven Crowder in there, right?
Yeah.
But if you think of Milo Yiannopoulos, Ben Shapiro, Dave Rubin, blah, 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 all of them are from either California or Canada.
Mm-hmm.
California, easily the most liberal state in the Republic.
Well, I mean the metropolitan parts. The rural areas of California are fucking red.
Yes, but they're so
But that's
small.
not where they're from. That's not where they're from.
Okay, but more importantly, that might be where they're from, but you're right.
Not.
They're mostly in LA.
Yeah.
But but more importantly, in California, yes, there are pockets of conservatives and all that stuff, clearly, but it's so small, even in the rural areas, that they're overwhelmed even in California state government in a way that they're not in, for example, New York.
Yes.
Right. In New York state government, it's that like Democrats haven't been able to maintain a supermajority in the Senate for a long time. Because of the other thing that they had, the stupid people that were Democrats, but they were conservative.
Let's leave it at people disagreeing. Go ahead.
So, you know, in almost no other state has Democrats held a stranglehold with supermajorities in the House and the Senate and governor for as long as they have in California, right?
Yep.
And even when they had a Republican governor, Schwarzenegger, it was Schwarzenegger. That was not a Republican like what we see now, right? He's constantly talking out about Trump. He's big on climate change.
Sure.
So it's a totally different thing, right? And out of that breeds, you know, I read a study about this, or it was a book, I think, talking about it, analyzing the fact that if you're a conservative in that environment where you've never had power, you've literally never been able to influence public policy. It explains why people like Ben Shapiro are so disingenuous about public policy, because they actually don't care about public policy. Because they can't.
That's a good point.
They can't because they could never.
Sure.
They never can get power.
Sure.
So what do? They talk about culture. That's the only thing that they can find that they can resonate with even people in California who would be economically liberal.
Right.
Because California's got an economy that's doing fairly well in most places, right?
That's a good point.
So how do you beat them?
Sure.
You talk about the culture points, and that's your only thing. So now if you translate in Canada, you know, Canada had a conservative prime minister, but their conservatives are like our Democrats, right? So arguably Canada on a whole is as liberal as California is, let's say, right? Except for they actually have single payer healthcare.
Right.
So likewise, Peterson's from California, Steven Crowder's from California, et cetera. So if you translate that to Discovery, and we were just talking about, what if the Federation wins? That's the scenario, right? If you're a conservative in the world of the Federation, where the left has total power and you have no political power at all,
that's a good point.
What happens? You go fascist, apparently, right?
Hey, maybe they're just the conservatives. They're just not. I mean, we would still be conservatives, Paul. We would probably be we'd probably be the biggest libertarians in the world, me and you, if it honestly,
I was at one time.
I think we still would be if it weren't for the weird shit. I mean, I know I think we're ideologically on the left
You
now.
might be, but I don't think I would.
But I mean, if you think, we started on the right when we grew up.
Yes.
And then we got out of religion, and we got out of.
Oh yeah, and by the way, if you guys are listening to this and aren't aware, super conservative growing up. My first political action, I put a W bumper sticker on my car in high school, and somebody ripped it off. It was a bumper sticker magnet.
Yes.
Somebody took it off and threw it away, and I got another one, put it on there. I wrote op-eds about why gay marriage should be illegal, why abortion should be illegal. And to your point earlier about the left taking it too far, I always worry about like, okay, if that had been now, if that had been me now, instead of in 2000, the early 2000s, if I had been going through that in 2019, would I have been able to make the transition? Because I would have been accosted by liberals on social media for the things that I wrote. And rightfully so, but that could have entrenched me. Whereas instead, I wrote it in the school newspaper. I talked about it. Most people around me agreed with me. And then that was the end of it. Most people today have no idea that I wrote these things. They never read them. It doesn't follow me.
Sure.
And so I was able to freely transition, and I don't.
Right, but you got to think about
what I'm saying?
I do, but you got to think about what transitioned you. And there's the thing that transitions people isn't go, oh, you know what? I suddenly understand economics different, blah blah blah. Right.
Right.
When that happens is usually you have a flirtation with Ayn Rand for a minute. That's usually what happens, right?
Which is what happened with
right.
me.
Yeah, it happens to everybody who. Yeah. So, but
every track from the right to the left goes through libertarianism.
Sure, but if you think about like what moved you, it was like, man, you guys are being weird about people you don't know.
Yeah,
that is what it is.
Yeah.
And if it weren't for that weird stuff, the weird marriage stuff, the weird sex stuff, the weird, like, it's just always sex stuff and other colored people stuff, and it's like, oh my god, I just cannot be I don't want to be anywhere near this crap.
But that's what I'm saying. Even for me, like,
so
that was part of the appeal.
Hold on, I'm imagining a world of Star Trek where the conservatives are just as conservative they are now, right? Where they believe in like independent sovereignty and blah blah blah, all that crap.
Sure.
Stuff, good, reasonable stuff.
Yeah.
But none of the weird stuff.
Oh, that's the right that I could totally be fine
that's what
with.
I'm thinking Star Trek
That's the right. See, the problem is that is the conservatism that the elite conservatives that fund the machine think that is the base.
Oh, for sure.
And it is absolutely not.
For sure.
And they didn't understand what they were creating.
I hear you. And I'm just saying, I think Star Trek, that's always I figured that's what happened to the conservatives. They just think
right.
Yeah.
But
they probably think they should. You know what I think,
But
Paul?
keep in mind,
I think those red uniforms that we like.
Yeah.
I think those are the conservatives in power. They're like, we're not changing uniforms. We're all having the same uniform, like my father did.
They're great.
And his father.
His father before him.
We fought the Klingons in this, right? The second time.
Yes. Yes.
No,
the first time.
Well, the first time was that
was before. Oh no!
Yeah,
right.
Discovery.
That was after
Discovery must have been the first time. Anywho, so I don't know. Maybe I like to think that that's what happened to the conservatives.
Right. And I think if you look in the universe of TOS, TNG, etc., I think that probably is kind of how it is. And I would like to see more in that. And I'm hoping that's what we get from Picard.
But
it's kind of that exploration of what do the politics of this era look like?
That'd be cool.
And the conflicts of.
Oh, it worked so great for episode one.
Just like Picard said, and we talked about this in our Picard video, just like he said it's easy to be idealist when you're a captain and you have an army behind you, but what happens when you want to fight injustice and you're by yourself, right? And what that leads me to believe is that Picard is going to experiment with what does the machine of the Federation become, and how quickly, because you got to imagine, it has a constitution, right? It means it'll have constitutional protections just like we do. And for the left, that becomes a conservative constitution that keeps you from going fascist, hopefully. But that's also what prevents you from getting progressive goals. Policy.
Right.
And that's why the left struggles so hard in the United States that they don't in other countries, because all you got to do is get a majority in parliament and you got the prime minister. You can do whatever you want. Right? And here, there's so many fucking hoops you got to go through. You got to get a majority in the House, you got to get a supermajority in the Senate, you got the president, then you got to get the Supreme Court to say that it's not unconstitutional.
I know, but here's the thing.
And that prevents us against fascism. I got you.
Yeah.
but that prevents us from getting good goals, and then the left gets uneasy. And
Paul, you changed your wording.
Progressive goals.
Progressive goals, and that's important. That's important because progressive goals are not necessarily good goals. They're just towards progress, and who defines progress but the Progressive Party?
Exactly.
Now, but to keep in mind, now I'm a big congressional.
Although I would argue progress is reducing suffering.
I'm a big American government fanboy. I am.
Yeah.
So, and you got to keep, for me, Paul's not so much, but I am.
No, I'm American government. I'm a fan.
Well, no, but you think...
I think it has flaws.
Yeah.
I'm not above... I don't idolize anything.
Right, I do. That's the thing. That's what I mean. I'm a bit of a... I'm a proper fanboy, right? I'm a groupie of it, right? Like
You still have a strain of conservatism running through you that I don't think I have. I think I purged.
I guess.
At some point.
It's just nostalgia. I wouldn't call it conservatism. I call it nostalgia. Nostalgia for
well, okay. What's another word for nostalgia?
Fair enough.
Tradition.
Fair enough.
Right.
Fair enough. So, but keep in mind, people who are concerned about the left, like taking power, right, and making us all communists and blah blah blah. I mean, power. Our government has changed hands. The parties in charge have changed hands reliably for 200 and almost 300 years.
Besides that 1 4-year period.
What do you mean?
The Civil War.
Right, 4-year period. I know, but I mean, in general, right?
Yes.
Our system has reliably handed off powers between parties, right?
Yes.
So I still think that's going to happen. What we're concerned about on the left, really, is much less Donald Trump getting a crown as opposed to him hurting a whole lot of people before we can get to our next election.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Right? Yes, of course, if I were worried about someone fucking up the balance of power between our branches, it'd be Trump, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But I'm
not. I'm actually not, but anyway.
But I mean, we've had...
Because I think he's not smart enough to do it.
Remember, we had a president who was also a Supreme Court justice simultaneously. We've had all sorts of weird...
What?
Yes, for sure. We'll talk about it. But
that seems like something I should know.
It's a real thing.
I'm not excellent on history, but I'm pretty good at
it's
it.
Crazy.
That seems like something I should know.
It's crazy. But there's been all sorts of crazy stuff that's happened in politics where the branch has been disrupted. But the fact of the matter is we have two political parties. They disagree. They both have power.
Yeah.
We're gonna be okay. But some people might not be because they don't have a vote.
Well...
Or they don't have a vote that means the same as everybody else.
Yeah. Or they won't live to the next election.
Yeah.
Right?
Anyway, no more politics. No more politics.
Yeah, anyway. So I just wanted to wrap that up as saying I'm going to have to put something in here. Be like, hey, skip the next 40 minutes if you don't want to hear about politics. You just want to hear about Star Trek.
This will be great. This will be a test. Please like this video
Yes.
if you want more politics. We wanted to do politics for a long time.
We tried to. We did it for a while, but it was different.
Yeah, but we weren't getting...
Well, and it wasn't like this. We tried to do it too scripted instead of just a discussion like this.
And there's so much.
Yeah.
There's so much going on.
We were trying to do news, and that makes sense because I don't know that we could sit and talk like this all the time and have topics to talk about.
Yeah.
But the news is just happening so fast. It was just we just couldn't keep up, so we stopped it. I unlisted the videos.
Yeah.
They're private now.
Yeah.
But anyway, we even had a whole separate political channel at one point.
If you give us some inclination that you liked this conversation, we'll do more. We're ratings whores, man.
Yeah.
Well, I am.
Well, and this was always the idea that I wanted behind this channel if we were going to go politics, is that we have the ability to sit and talk about this nuance in different ways. And we're both on the left, but we both have appreciation to some extent. And I don't mean that in like... in the way you might be thinking. I mean, appreciation in terms of respect, I guess, for conservatism in certain guises, both because most people we know, so we live in the Midwest, most people we know are conservatives. I mean, Donald Trump won the district I live in by like 40 points, right? Most people I know are conservative. Most of my family is conservative. I'm from Kentucky. We're in the Midwest now. I grew up conservative, all this stuff. We bring an interesting viewpoint to it. And I thought that could be interesting, but it's so hard to get through in a short video, which is why this one's at an hour and something now. Getting this nuance in there is difficult. And so that's why we've had a difficulty making content out of it. So this just happened organically, and I appreciate that, and I enjoy that. And it just happened to have while we had Burnham.
Yeah, well, if you liked it, then let us know somehow.
Yes.
We'll take it into consideration.
I'm going to put a poll. Top right. There's going to be a poll.
Political
Because I
stuff.
figured out I could do a poll in the pop outs.
Mm-hmm.
And let us know if you liked our political discussion or not.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so that's way longer than I expected to take on Star Trek, Short Treks, and Discovery because we didn't learn much. But that's where, I guess that's what we have.
That's what we know anyway.
That's what we know.
So good.
That's where we hope it's going. So hopefully we'll learn more.
You're welcome, Planet Earth.
As always, follow us on social media. Check out our other reviews and other discussions. Check out our Picard video down below. And yeah, like, comment, subscribe, do all that stuff if you want to. We're pretty casual about it. Until next time, keep it casual, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.